Irreverent, entertaining, cool. You're listening to LA Talk Radio.
You're listening to Peace Fund Radio with Ethan Dettenmaier and Adrian Paul, right here on LA Talk Radio.
Well. What a weekend that was.
Yes,
What a weekend. I know you're rather in mourning at the moment. You know, poor
How so?
Pacquiao didn't win the fight.
Well, I'm actually under the belief that he did win it, that the judges were paid off. But you are saying different. That
No,
you think Mayweather won.
No, personally, I mean, you've got a fighter who is 47-0, and he is the champion. And he kept Pacquiao out. He got hit a couple of times by Pacquiao, but Pacquiao didn't put him down and didn't do anything. So Pacquiao won some rounds.
I understand that Mayweather is a major contributor to the Las Vegas and the state of Nevada's economy, and therefore they have a vested interest in seeing the man remain undefeated as long as possible.
Well, I mean,
but I certainly miss the days, and I said it this morning, when Marvin Hagler or Leonard would get in there to try to dismantle each other instead of I'm going to run for 12 rounds and then hope I get the draw.
It's the interesting thing is it's such a big fight purely and simply for different reasons. There's a lot of emotions in this fight. One, because Pacquiao's doing it for his country, and Mayweather's doing it for his pride in his pocket, in a sense. I mean, it's kind of two different camps. So, and plus, a lot of people don't like Mayweather because of his violent history towards women.
And I think in general, for him, the 24/7 documentary series was a mistake on his part. I know why he did it, but I don't think it did him any favors with the public.
Well, the documentary, all the different
the 24/7 that follows him pre-fight.
Oh yes, right.
Fight in and fight out. But these are supposed to be the speed guys.
Well, he's a technician, and his hands are fast, and all power to him. I mean, he's got 48 wins now, and he didn't do it on fluke. I mean, he did it with talent, and you've got to give him that.
You want to schedule me a bunch of fights between me and a bunch of junior high kids. I'll be 48-02.
No, but I mean, you can't take that away from him. I don't like him, for what he stands for, but that's just. But you got to give the man his creds. It's. What do you guys think out there? Come on, tweet. What do you want? Come on! You got to tweet us and tell us about this because we're doing Peace Fund Radio this morning, but this it's supposed to be the fight of the century. But I thought it was a bore of the century.
It wasn't the fight of the century.
No, I don't think so. Not at all.
It wasn't the fight of the century even when they lined it up.
No,
come on, let's be serious.
No,
but props to you, and what better way to talk peace than a boxing match at the top of the show? But you keep your emotions out of it, and you have a clear analytical view of what you thought happened there, and I think that's respectable because a lot of people do let the backdrop of both fighters kind of cloud their judgment and basically spew a bunch of hatred, and you're keeping it strictly to what happened between them in the ring for 12 rounds.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I just think it could have gone better. I mean, if you watch the way Pacquiao attacked him into the corners and against the ropes, he'd push him into the ropes, bring in with his left hands, and Mayweather would spin out to his right, and he'd swing on his right and miss him every time. I don't know why his trainer didn't say to him, fake to the left and then come down with the right. You'll hit him on the way out, but it didn't happen.
He might have, and it may have something to do with the shoulder injury we're now hearing about, although he didn't fight with it. It didn't appear to
didn't
be
look
fighting.
like he was fighting with him.
The British fighter that fought Mayweather a couple years ago that was also undefeated.
Amir Khan?
No.
There is Amir Khan that they're talking about.
And I hate to actually give your countrymen any props, but there was a British fighter who was also undefeated who I thought had Mayweather's number watching that fight, with the exception of the fact that Mayweather had taunted him to the point where he was taking headshots because he was getting so angry at him that he was going in there where he could be pummeled. But he actually, I thought, in the beginning and all through training, had a real shot to beat Mayweather. Who was that guy?
I can't remember who it was. Okay, who was it out there?
His name was Fatty.
Come on, guys. You guys are tweet. You guys are listen. While we're looking for that up, I want to give a quick update for Nepal in the news right now. The powerful earthquake that struck northwest of Kathmandu a week and a half ago is now known to have killed more than 7,500 people and injured more than 14,500. Aid agencies have warned that there's a risk of serious outbreaks of disease in the aftermath of the quake. A lack of shelter, contaminated water, and poor sanitation could lead to cholera, dysentery, and other waterborne diseases. Cholera is an epidemic in Nepal, so an outbreak would not be unprecedented. Last year, 600 people caught cholera, and in 2009, a major outbreak affected more than 300,000 people. Widespread power outages and cell phone tower damage is hampering relief efforts in the area. Tens of thousands of girls and young women from regions devastated by the earthquake in Nepal are being targeted by human traffickers supplying a network of brothels across South Asia. Criminal networks use the cover of rescue efforts to target the poor rural communities. If you'd like to help, visit Charity Navigator for a list of charities and their ratings. There's an excellent video with an important message from Charity Navigator to find out how you can give generously and with confidence to the relief efforts. We will be posting the link to our social media sites very shortly, although we don't personally have an organisation that we are in contact with currently because we're dealing with a lot of other things. So please go to charitynavigator.org. Just type in Charity Navigator to your web browser and you will find them. They're a fantastic website. So anyway, we've been talking education for the past 3.5-4 weeks, I think it is now, and this will be our last one.
It's all education.
It's all educational, isn't it, really? Fixing America's public schools. This week, we're going to continue this discussion. Basically learning something that people, like other animals, we do when our eyes are open. Education, though, is human, and right now it's an unusual point of flux. By some accounts, education is a $7 trillion global industry ripe for disruption. Others see it as a sacred pursuit and a means of nurturing developing minds while preserving tradition. Around the world, education means equal rights and opportunity. People risk their lives for it every single day. But no matter what you think about education, what's clear right now is that the old blueprints are out of the window. The economy isn't creating jobs the way it once did, and technology has forever changed how we communicate and challenge the meaning of knowledge itself. The cost of college has risen more than any other good or service in the US economy since 1978. That's scary. The cost of college. That's education for your kids. There's an increasing evidence that qualities like creativity, communication, collaboration, and persistence matter most. Yet our school system remains pegged to standardized tests that just take in reading and math. So how do we do about this? What do we do? I want to recap a few of the actual facts that we talked about over the past 3 or 4 weeks for those of you who did not tune in. Among 34 developed countries, the United States is ranked 27th in math and 20th in science. In 1970, the United States produced 30% of the world's college graduates. Where'd I get that from? Anyway, today it only produces 15%. In the US, 14% of new teachers resign by the end of the first year, 33% leave within the first 3 years, and almost 50% leave by their fifth year. That's probably one of the most staggering numbers I've kind of seen. I had no idea about that. And by 2020, the United States will have 123 million high-skilled jobs to fill. A few of them, 50 million Americans, qualified to fill them. 66% of all US fourth graders scored below proficient on the 2013 National Assessment of Education Progress reading test, meaning that they are not reading at grade level. About 22% of eighth graders scored below the basic level, and only 36% of eighth graders were at or above grade level. And the last two facts I want to bring you are among students from low-income backgrounds, 80% score below grade level in reading. 30 years ago, America was the leader in quantity and quality of high school diplomas. Today, our nation is ranked 36th in the world. That's disgraceful. That is something we've got to do something about.
But
now,
what?
Well, this is why we're talking about it. We've got to find out how we can affect it. I mean, obviously, faking school tests is not going to help our kids do that, and perhaps we've discussed this before about how parents have to really get involved in schools now to see what's happening and help fundraise and because the public school system started many years 100 years ago based on the factory model of teach them a little bit so they can go out there in factories and work. But that whole system has just the public schools has changed now, and the public schools don't have enough funding and have programs that private schools don't have programs that private schools have, and therefore they have to find the funding for it. So there are some very good public schools. The teachers' unions. Okay, hey, let's talk about something else. Let's talk about teachers' unions. Are they good or bad? What do you guys think out there? Are they good? What do you think a teachers' union would do? I mean, it was, when they were formed, mid-19th century.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. By what? Are you talking about the 50s?
No, this is mid-19th century. Mid-19th, yeah, okay, so it's 19th century, 1850s. It began as a voices in national movement for women's rights and the rights of all working people. Today, it's also a political force. Basically, the two biggest teachers' unions, the National Education Association, the NEA, and the American Federation of Teachers, AFT, are the nation's largest contributors to political campaigns. Over the past 20 years, they've given more than $55 million to congressional candidates and their parties. And this is something that I was talking to our guest last week, Raymond King, who is in the medical world, and he basically says, I was talking to him about a video that I've been watching that's changed my eating diet. It's called Forks Over Knives, and how
I saw that.
You've seen Forks Over Knives, right? So the basic fact that the food in our kids' schools, and this will be something we're going to be talking about, nutrition in our kids' schools in the next coming month or two. We're going to be really focusing on that and what's going on there. But the company, the association, or the board that actually votes what type of food goes into the schools, 6 of the 11 people on that board came from one of the major food producers in the United States. So meat, hamburgers, whatever else that they were towards, whether it's Kraft, whether it was whatever, they were voting for that. And that's what happens a lot of the time. It has nothing to do with what the public wants, unfortunately. There are lobbyists that lobby for certain things, and that's the reason why we have bills voted in, because they're being lobbied by powerful people that have money, that have something to gain by it. And the same thing, insurance is another one. You're talking. Raymond said to me, it's very interesting. You've got this whole free medical thing right now, but did you know that the insurance companies lobby to have that go through, because you need insurance to have this medical? Everybody has to have insurance now. So the insurance companies are going to make money. That's why the medical bill was passed through. So you have to really look at why a bill's being produced and who's actually behind it, who's lobbying for it. So we're talking about teachers. I know we went back, but unions, they block a lot of good educators from doing the right thing for their students. Contracts have become so detailed that a good idea that would benefit students must be ignored, because parts of the teacher's contract do not allow certain aspects of the initiative. I'll give you an example. If a school wanted to have a special parent night or after-school tutoring, contracts may be so specific that teachers are not allowed to do an after-school activity once a year. Even though teachers would be willing to go the extra mile for their students, they're too intimidated by the union to try. Now, the unions, you SAG after, in my case, in my business, you've got the teachers union. They sometimes, who's the overriding factor? Are unions good or bad? What do you guys think out there? What do you think?
I think they have some positive angles, and they've got some negative angles. Anytime you're doing something for the masses, you're going to do some good and create a lot of red tape and nonsense.
Where's John Beerley? I'm sure John Beerley's on the background in there somewhere. I mean, what does John believe that we should be doing?
Well, it's.
See, I knew you were there. I knew you were listening.
It is. It's hello, Adrian and Ethan. Nice to be on with you guys as always. It's a difficult question that.
Do unions bring? I mean, there is a power in a union, but sometimes unions go too far. Have the teachers' union gone too far?
Well, it's there's so many things wrong with, I feel like, the way we do just about everything. Everything just gets so convoluted by bureaucracy and politics and everything else. We've spoken in the last 2 weeks of the show about education and how a stealth bomber costs $2 billion, but we've got all of these problems with schools. I'm the kind of person who believes that a good military and a good defense is also extremely important. And the sad thing is that airplane does not cost $2 billion to build. It costs that much because of these programs that have so many complications and bureaucracies involved in them that the prices inflate because of things that aren't even related to the actual airplane that rolls off the assembly line. I feel like we did things smarter.
Well, actually, John, let me jump in on that for a very quick second, because in my industry, it's known as developmental costs. In other words, you pay a huge amount of money to somebody to say, you know what, I think it's this. So you pay them so you're paying these developmental costs to people that really have nothing to do with it. They just said, well, I think you, and let me put you, executive producers in film. If you basically have somebody that brings you some money, they connect you to somebody, they don't actually bring the money in, but they connect you, they get a salary, and they get an executive producer credit.
Right. And there are a lot of things too, it kind of works across the board, be it education, be it defense, that so many of the actual costs aren't really for the actual things that are being produced. And it's kind of like having a lot of credit card debt. If we had just been smarter about the way we spent the money in the first place, we could have all of the things that we have plus more, plus money in the bank. If we'd just been smarter about things. And that applies to defense, it applies to education. And I realize why teachers unions need to exist, to make sure that there are checks and balances for how those decisions are being made, how the money is being spent. And it's a shame that those things have to exist, and because they have to exist, then there are always complications. And I think it's difficult to, without really understanding specific instances and situations, to really know how much good those things are doing. But I know a lot of my friends who are teachers are always so frustrated that they just feel like they want to help the kids, they want to do their jobs, but because there are just so many other factors involved, it gets more difficult all the time to really do that job and do it well. And that's why I think it's important that the unions exist.
Let's get some things out of I mean, obviously, Ethan has a point of view, which I'm sure he's going to say in a minute. But the funny thing is, we're talking, people, there's Democrats, Republicans, but we all agree that we should help our kids. It just depends on how we do it. And that's the same thing with unions. How do we do it? I mean, in Florida, the teachers union lobbied to limit the use of standardized tests, and the governor last week signed a bill that limits the number of hours students spend taking them. Another union in New Jersey financed an advertising campaign in which a grim-faced father talks about his son crying because of his tests. And in New York, where local unions have worked closely with parent groups and oppose testing, the president of the state union went so far as to urge parents to opt out of the annual tests, which began last week. So why would they do that? Why would they tell them to opt out of the tests?
I don't know why.
I mean, what's the isn't that a way? I mean, I hated tests when I was a kid. Did you hate? I mean, I used to be I was brainy, but I hated tests. I hated sitting there waiting to. Or what I would do is I'd do nothing during the year, and then I'd cram in the last 3 weeks and work hard as I could to get the test result, and I'd get an okay test result. But it didn't mean I really learned anything.
So is that a confession, or is there a question in there?
Many years later, yes. No, but the question is, why would you stop testing for kids? Right. Because at least it makes them, even though you might cram in it in the last 3 weeks or 2 weeks, it's at least making you sit down and be responsible enough to actually take the test, so that you have something to. So why would you have a parent group be told to don't let your kid take the test? Don't take it. Or finance an advertising campaign saying, the test is not good. Why would... I don't understand. Anybody out there know that? And you guys got the brilliant idea, Ethan, John, any reason why that would happen?
I love that you use my name and brilliant in the same sentence.
Brilliant and Ethan, you've been waiting for that for years, haven't you?
I have been, and it's finally time somebody recognizes it. But I still don't understand if there's a question in this, or if you're I mean, what
But the question is, why would a union stop the people from... finance an advertising campaign. You're talking about using money. John, you said they use money to actually, put it towards the kids' education, but they're not. They're using it to an advertising campaign to stop them from taking a test. That seems rather strange to me.
It does seem strange.
Why would you
was
do
given
that?
for that? I don't know.
I don't know.
What did they...
I don't know.
What was
we need
the
to get some teachers. There are any teachers out there who can call in right now. Let us know. We'd love to hear that viewpoint.
Well, both the AFT and the NEA, the AFT, as I just said, are the two organisations that are the unions responsible for this. They're in unique positions to influence what happens in public schools, and basically they're continuing to draw fire from many who blame them for the bad American public school system. Whether you see teachers' unions as heroic crusaders for the little guy or bureaucratic monoliths committed to status quo that isn't working, one thing is sure: they're not going away anytime soon. So we've got to somehow readdress that problem, because if you've got teachers that in their contracts say they can't do after-school programs, why would that be in there? Maybe it's something to do with insurance. You can't do things because of everything. It really irks me now. Everything you do it's a liability for this. It's a liability for that. The insurance company. I had a meeting last night where we're staying currently. They had a meeting in the pool area for all the residents because we're moving into a different home. So we're staying here in our townhouse. And they had the liability about kids running, about kids shouting. I'm like, what? It's a liability for this. There's a liability for that. And maybe that's something to do with it, which is rather, scary that it's all down to insurance. But why would you have those clauses in contracts? Why would you do that? I mean, I don't know.
Well, it is often about money. Many of my local teacher friends were really upset just this week here in southern Indiana. Voters in Floyd County rejected this $80 million plan to build 2 new schools and renovate 3 other schools in a referendum that was on the primary ballot, and it didn't go through.
Why?
And
why were people so opposed to it?
Well, because here's the question on the ballot. Shall the New Albany Floyd County Consolidated School Corporation issue bonds or enter into a lease to finance the construction of a new school, blah, 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 which is estimated to cost not more than $79 million, which is, granted, a lot, and is estimated to increase the property tax rate for debt service by 20 cents per $100 of assessed valuation. In other words, it's going to cause taxes to go up a little bit.
There it is, right there.
So let's just not do it. And it did not go through. And the teachers are just crestfallen that there are so many of these massive renovations that needed to happen, or what a difference 2 new schools in the area would bring for smaller class sizes and better.
Well, here's another issue, John.
It's heartbreaking.
Here's another issue. You're talking about $79 million. Well, first of all, where's the $79 million coming from? Who's going to be paying? Obviously, some of the taxpayers are going to be paying for it, but who's going to foot the bill initially? The second thing is you can go past many, many different communities these days, and you can see there are public schools that have massive grounds, and they've got grass growing amongst the cracks on the basketball courts. They've got stuff of that nature where it's all been run down. Why don't we look at the areas that actually need those? You don't need to build a whole new one. Why don't you just clean up the ones we've already got?
Right.
I mean, for half a century, great teachers are we know that US schools need reform. We've responded and the way we've done it, by saying, oh yeah, we need to do something about it. We've quadrupled the spending per pupil, but it's not done anything that's translated to actually achievement. We've not quadrupled that achievement. We've actually gone down, as my facts stated at the beginning, into what we are able to produce in the college level. And it's clear that just by putting money into existing system, it's not going to lead to significant improvements. It's going to be done a different way. So extensive research, I'm going to read here from some of my stuff here. Research on schools leads to one single conclusion. Student achievement is directly related to quality teachers. There's no other potential focus that a school policy has. There's anything like this, but you've got to be able to recruit and retain good teachers, because as I said at the beginning, you've got 50% of them leave within their first 5 years. Lack of money has had and continues to have an impact on the quality of schooling in many parts of the country, and it exacerbates inequalities that already exist. But there are other factors which are much more important. Why does everyone seem to have a story about how one special teacher got through to them, changed them and reshaped their life forever? I know at school when did you ever have a teacher like that, Ethan, John? Did you guys
absolutely.
have one teacher
Absolutely.
that you kind of really got to? And was there one that you really didn't get anything out of at all? Because here's the interesting part. There's both sides of the coin.
No, there were both. There were both. And, it seemed like the ones who did not put forth much effort were never punished, were never made to be accountable or responsible for it. But the ones who did push the students to work hard were the ones who were getting pressure from the administration to back off because we've got parents complaining that their kids have got too much homework. I've talked about my high school English teacher before, who pushed us really hard. He wanted to push us out of our comfort zones and really got us to think and work and have pride in our work, take pride in ourselves and be accountable and responsible. And yes, at the time, sometimes, these massive writing assignments might have seemed excessive at the time. But when you get to college and you're not in school because you have to be, but because you've chosen to be, and there's nobody over your shoulder saying that you have to work hard. You have to choose to do that. I was so grateful for that teacher for saying, hey, take pride in
Then
what you're
basically
doing.
what you're saying is that, a teacher has changed your life.
Absolutely.
Ethan, do you have the same thing?
I'm still in touch with him, and every time I talk to him, he just seems so sad that he's just like, the parents today, you try to make the kids work, you try to get through to them, you try to get them to take pride in their work, and all you get is just blowback from the parents who are complaining and saying, oh, he's making our kids work too hard. We don't like it. And it teaches the kids that, hey, if there's something in your life that's tough, you can just, go complain to somebody and it'll get taken care of. And we're taking away that, those lessons of accountability and responsibility and taking pride that are so important. So I can understand why so many teachers are so frustrated all the time, because this is the kind of thing they deal with.
Interesting. Could it be that teaching is the most important job in the world?
It could be.
Or
Could be.
that maybe
On some level, that doesn't mean that actually being a teacher is the most important, but teaching.
Well, I mean, and the thing is, the challenge of fixing America's schools comes down to putting great teachers in the classroom and giving them the tools they need to do what they need to do. I mean, the interesting, when you're talking about teacher, I mean, I know from martial arts, you call a teacher sensei. In Japan, it is, and it has enormous stature in Japanese society. It's held, and it isn't the only country that does that.
You didn't call your teacher a sensei at the Buddhist temple that taught you kung fu, did you? Because you're in the wrong school.
Well, actually, no, it wasn't. It wasn't sensei. It's sifu.
Right.
Yes, but sensei it depends on which. But teacher, I mean, teacher is that depends on which language you could do it in. But then again, here we go. Here's another interesting fact. That last week we talked about which country, if America's 36th or 34th in the world, in which country was it that was the highest in educational achievement? And it's Finland. And in Finland, teaching is one of the top career choices for graduates.
I'm not surprised. It's interesting you mentioned martial arts, too, because in your experience, I'm sure you'll recognize that most teachers, sensei, sifu, shihan, that they tend to tailor the teachings to the student individually if they're good. Yeah. Some they push hard, some they work with a little bit differently.
Correct, yes, and that's what a good teacher would do. He knows when to push and when to pull back.
Same in school, I would think.
Exactly, absolutely. But I mean, you've got to have good teachers in schools that know how to do that. In Finland, only 1 in 10 applicants is selected. 1 in 10 to become a teacher. So they've got. It's not like you've got. So here we're lacking teachers. There they've got abundance of them. People want to be teachers, and only 1 in 10 can take the job. In some parts of the world, teaching is cool. Sadly, it's not generally true here in the United States, and most of our brightest students from top universities don't generally opt out for teaching. It's not what we do. So what happens? The kids that are coming up don't have the tools that they really need. And to really improve the American educational system, we need to dramatically increase the profession's cool factor. Teaching should be considered one of the most important jobs you can have, which of course it is. But education is ground zero for solving society's problems. I mean, it really is, because we've talked about it before. If you increase what kids do at school and how they interact at school, it stops them from gangs, from drugs, from going into prison, from being able to read, which turns them into drugs and gangs and all that stuff. So education is so much. So why don't we actually have the teachers, front and center? Unfortunately, what happened in Atlanta last week doesn't exactly help us. But when we're talking about the ones that were convicted for test fixing or grade fixing, should we say? I mean, unfortunately, that sort of mars the whole way of what teachers are trying to do. But to a degree, they're pressured from somewhere else. So, how do you do it? How do we do this? How do we, it's such a big problem. And the estimates of teacher performance suggest that only 3 to 4 years of good teachers, 85 percentile, is in a row, would generally overcome the average achievement deficit between low-income kids, those on free or reduced price lunch, and the others who don't. In other words, high-quality teachers can make up for the typical deficits that we see in the preparation of kids from disadvantaged backgrounds. Schools serving disadvantaged students tend to have both very good and very bad teachers, and the same holds true for schools serving more advantaged kids. On average, a teacher in the bottom 20% of effectiveness covers only 50% of required curriculum in a school year, while a teacher in the top quintile covers 150%.
That's awesome.
Well, I mean, it basically means we need more teachers covering that 150%.
Exactly. Yeah, that 150% number. That's incredible. And again, that's the teacher who goes the extra mile, who doesn't just teach what's on the page, but goes above and beyond to make the kids proud of what they're doing and feel like they're a part of it and take pride in it. It's
not only that. I mean, we come down to, yes, it's a good curriculum. Yes, it's a good teacher, but it's also good parenting. You have to understand what a teacher is actually able to do. Because a teacher doesn't end when school stops. A teacher puts all the. I mean, I've seen it in my kids' school. The good teachers, what they do is they put programs together. They put stuff together for the kids. They put the packets together and all that stuff for the next day or the next week or the next month's test or whatever. They are working much more than when the school bell finishes and the kids go home. So parents should realise, give a little consideration to what those teachers are actually doing out there, and don't sort of knock them because they didn't give your kid a good grade, because it's maybe your child didn't actually do well on their test. Yes, you get certain favoritism, but I'm sure that that doesn't happen all the way through. As a result, by the way, for that percentile I talked about a second ago, the teacher retention challenge, it's 20% of teachers in high poverty schools are inexperienced, compared with 11% in low poverty schools, and on average more experienced teachers produce better student results. But only on average. There are teachers with many years in the classroom who are mediocre at best, and some newcomers to the profession who are deeply gifted and able to produce superb outcomes almost from their first days on the job. Identifying the high performers, weeding out the low performers, and improving the work of those in middle ranks is the big challenge. So, what else is there? Curriculum. What was your curriculum like?
What do you mean? What was it like?
Well, what was your school?
At what level?
Let's say your 10th grade.
It was English. It was math, very basic math, or even arithmetic to some people.
Arithmetic, yeah, I remember that.
It was, physical fitness, drafting. I had a drafting class.
Drafting. It's interesting.
Photoshop.
What about you, John?
Bunch of nonsense.
We actually, for a small town school, a small public school, my graduating class was about 50 kids, I think, in a very rural community. I felt like I got a really great education. We had of course, the basics, English, mathematics. We had a lot of advanced mathematics at our school, which math was always something that I struggled with, and thankfully we had good teachers for it. I'd already mentioned English. We had journalism. That's where I started writing. The first thing I had published was when I was 16 in my high school newspaper, became an editor of the newspaper. We had Spanish. I mean, for a small school, the teachers who worked hard really made a huge difference and inspired us to learn as much as we could while we were there. It was a very good experience overall.
Well, the interesting thing is the whole No Child Left Behind is what gets tested drives what gets taught. As a result, the NCBL has put a premium on test taking, specifically learning how to bubble in multiple choice answers in reading and math, which is what both you guys basically said. In 2010, the Centre on Education Policy surveyed a nationally representative group of school districts and found that 62% of them had increased the time devoted to reading and mathematics, while 44% reported that they had reduced the amount of time spent on science, social studies and the arts, which is something that's tough. Because, you said you were drafting, Ethan, which is interesting. And, John, you talking about languages. Mm-hmm. Languages, you teach a child a language before the age of 10 to 12 years old, it actually affects the left and right cortex of the brain, allowing them to learn much greater skills or a mathematical problem.
I had language, too. I just had blocked that part out.
You blocked it out. Why did you block it out?
Well, it was just,
Why did you block it out, mate? Huh? Perché?
I already spoke Spanish, and I had to learn French, and I thought it was just preposterous that we had to take a language if we already spoke one. So it was rough.
So what? So okay.
I would have rather taken auto shop, but I have to actually say I had a great high school counselor. I will say that.
You had a counselor. That's interesting.
I've had many counselors.
Do all high schools have counselors?
I don't think so.
Ours did.
Did yours do? Because, yeah. I mean, again, my schooling system was different. we don't
American
have grades.
kids clearly need counseling at every level, I think, in terms of guidance and help with the decision process, because their parents are detached in many cases.
That's part of the thing I think that's very important. The counselors were never there before when the parents were there. I mean, there is a lot more stress put on parents today.
You know, you have to understand that a counselor, though, is a representative of the school and the school system who knows what the objectives are and knows how you're doing and what you're struggling with. So as far as school's concerned, it's a good thing. It's not like a psychologist who's going to, well, I mean, I guess it could be if you were unbalanced, but, you go in there and they're going to tell you, hey, you need X, Y, and Z, and you need to do it now, and you need to improve here, or what are your goals? Do you want to be a mechanic? Do you want to go to college? And then they'll formulate your schedule with what you want to do, and it's actually kind of some of the first decision-making skills that you can apply towards real life. It's actually kind of a good experience. I'm very pro counselor at high school.
Well, I think it's very good to have a counselor if you don't have.
And I was a guidance counselor, if you can believe that. I was a peer counselor.
Dear. There are many little Ethans running around right now.
No, come on. Give me a little credit.
I'll give you lots of credit.
I was the most popular peer counselor. I'd also point out at my high school. I was popular at a lot of things back then.
Prove it.
Things have changed.
Well, I think, Ethan, it's because you care about people. I mean, look at all the things that you're involved now with helping kids, with helping your community. It takes somebody who is not only intelligent but truly compassionate and really wants kids to make the most of what they can be.
John, thank you for that. It's nice to know somebody on the show gets it. Because clearly my co-host
I love you. I love you.
Yeah, see that effort? And he calls himself an actor. This is really getting preposterous.
Anyway, John,
do you disagree with the idea of counseling? I think that's
no. I don't disagree with the idea of counseling. If a kid needs some guidance, I hate the word counseling to a degree because it sounds like something's wrong with a kid.
That's true.
Guidance.
That's true.
I think guidance is more because a guidance is
advisor,
more advisor, or
career advisor.
That's a better way to say it because I think I'm a counselor. Oh God, there's something wrong with me. So therefore you immediately have a barrier up.
Well, that's probably a good notion to change the actual title, but I don't know how they afford them now with all the cutbacks. I don't know how they pay these counselors at all these high schools. I'm glad they have them, but it's wizardry on the budgeting side. Well, they've got these people there.
Let's keep this on the back burner for 2 seconds, John.
Sure.
Let's get our hero of the week because we need to definitely get our hero of the week in this week.
Yes, two quick things before we get to the hero. 2 new ways to donate to the Peace Fund. To make a donation, you can text Peace Fund to 88588, and you're able to choose your donation level. For every $10 donation you make between now and this Sunday, May 10th, you'll earn 1 entry to win a katana autographed by the Highlander himself, our very own Adrian Paul. That's 1 entry for every $10 donation. $20 get you 2 entries, $50 get you 5 entries, etc. And that will be announced, Adrian, at the convention this weekend in
Philadelphia.
That's
in
actually
Philadelphia.
a great gift. I think that's a real good gift. That's exciting.
That is.
Well, it's easy
It's
for
awesome.
$10. You give a donation to help a kid, and basically you'll get a signed autograph. It's only 4 days left, people. So get out there. Get your.
Yes,
it's so easy to do. On your text
885-882 or text Peace Fund to 88588. You can also buy a square on our Peace Fund radio supporter wall at thepeacefund.org. For every donation of $250 or more, you can choose a particular radio show date to sponsor. Dedicate it for a friend's birthday. Dedicate it in memory of a lost loved one. Dedicate it to yourself because you did a good thing and you supported the Peace Fund.
Right.
Because here's the awesome thing. Together we can all make life better for the world's children. And if you don't believe we can, listen to this story. Today's hero of the week is 17-year-old Sabrina Hundal of Mississauga, Ontario, who has been a champion for the scientific lives and educations of young women around the world since she founded Science Girls, which you can find at sciencegirls.ca in 2011. Science Girls is an international nonprofit organization built around female empowerment, and their goals are to end gender inequality, promote girls' rights, and lift thousands of girls and their families out of poverty by focusing on girls aged 14 to 18 who are interested in the STEM fields of science, technology, engineering, and math. There are 65 million girls around the world who are not in school, and even more who are struggling to remain there. So what are Sabrina and the Science Girls doing to reach out to those girls and help them? They provide girls with new science and math textbooks and other materials to inspire girls to continue their educations. They do that in Canada. They also do it in India, where only 40% of girls 40% of girls have to leave school by the time they get to the 5th grade. Only 1% of girls actually reach the 12th grade. They present girls with information and education on how to pursue entrepreneurial opportunities to lift themselves and their families out of poverty. They inspire girls to rise above family concerns and cultural obstacles to seek secondary education in STEM fields. And they provide funds and mentorship to spark entrepreneurial efforts and create awareness in the community about the inequality females are facing. Again, what does every one of those things have in common? Education, education, education. Sabrina organizes an annual conference of workshops, and she maintains a mentorship program that connects girls around the world to the best and brightest scientists on the planet by phone, email, and video chat. They've already reached over 600 delegates nationally and another 800 delegates internationally, all with the goal of giving girls the knowledge and the tools and the opportunities they need to pursue careers in science. There are so many more statistics about women in science, and that we just don't have time to get to on the show. But to find out those statistics, to find out how to attend the conference or participate in this mentorship program, visit sciencegirls.ca. As for Sabrina herself, she is also involved in ongoing E. coli research with the University of Toronto. And she was so fascinated as a 9th grader, no less, by the theory that water expands as it becomes a solid, that she explored ways to extract, harness, and transfer the pressure exerted during that transformation into usable kinetic energy. I don't even understand what I just said.
Jesus, wow.
But it's awesome. She attempted various methods to do this, and she was finally able to make it work, and the patent is currently pending on her prototype. It could be an absolute game changer for energy production. And this is coming from a girl who used to endure verbal and physical bullying from her peers because she chose to spend recess in the laboratory instead of on the playground. Now, in addition to all of her work with the Science Girls, Sabrina serves as a member of the Minister of Education's Youth Advisory Council, and she has raised more than $600,000 for various environmental organizations. Absolutely incredible. You know, when you think about some of these things, this mentorship program that she has, and I can't help but imagine a situation where a 15-year-old girl in Canada is chatting online with a 15-year-old girl in India. One of the girls has come up with about half of an idea for a cure for cancer. The girl in India has come up with the other half, and boom, you've got it. Because somebody had the heart and the passion to work to bring these girls together. So for all the things she's accomplished, for the things she will accomplish, and for all the young women who will change the future and the face of science because of the opportunities that Sabrina and the Science Girls have given them, Sabrina Hundal and her Science Girls are our latest Peace Fund Radio heroes of the week.
Yeah, good idea.
Yeah. I mean, I would love to hear her talk to her on the radio at some point.
We're working on it.
Okay,
We're working on it.
I mean, that's kind of interesting that personally, you know, physics and that was not my favorite subject. I mean, so it's not. Yeah, and I think it was probably because of the teacher we had, who
could be.
You know, I think sometimes you don't like a subject because you don't like the teacher. I mean, that's half the reason. Let's go very quickly because we're getting out of the. I think I just want to highlight something, which is the parents' involvement in their children's education. Kids basically spend less than 15% of their time in school, and it's no doubt school is important, but there are a couple of studies that come out that basically remind us how important it is for the parents' role. The North Carolina State University Brigham Young and the University of California Irvine find that parents, when you check homework and you attend school meetings and events and you discuss school activities at home with your children, it's the most powerful influence on your child's academic performance than anything about the school, anything else that your child will attend. Another study published in the Review of Economics and Statistics reports that the effort put by parents, reading stories aloud, meeting with teachers, has a bigger impact on their children's educational achievement than the effort expended by either the teachers or the students themselves.
Really?
Yes, and a third study concludes that schools would have to increase their spending by more than $1,000 per pupil in order to achieve the same results that are gained by parental involvement. It is important, and we've talked about this before, that you go and show your child that you're interested in them. Take an hour out, go to attend yes, sometimes the parents, teachers, things are boring, but it's not for that. It's Get your ego or your time out of the way, and put your kid. If your child sees you coming to school, that you're taking an interest, they're much more likely to take an interest in their school activities and their learning. So parents matter. A point made clear by decades of research showing that a major part of academic advantage held by children from affluent families comes from the concerted cultivation of children as compared to the more laissez-faire I'm doing a little bit of French here, style of parenting common in working class families. Please look at your kids. It will help them and you eventually. Poverty is a social dynamic that does not allow people to behave in ways that we view as effective or productive. Just as the achievement gap in schools is a marker for the equity gap in society, parenting style differences are reflections of the social dynamics experienced by those parents. So privilege is a safety net. Poverty is a prison. Let's get out of that. Let's get out of that, because I think it's very, very important. I want to give a quick shout out, John and Ethan, right now to a couple of organisations that are making, or an organisation that's making a difference. Kids in Need Foundation, www.kinf.org. Again, this link will be on our social media site and on our website. The Kids in Need Foundation is their mission is to ensure that every child is prepared to learn and succeed by providing free school supplies nationally to students most in need. The Kids in Need Foundation provides free school supplies to the resource centres across the country where teachers go to get free supplies for their students. All supplies donated by manufacturers and retailers go immediately to the resource centres. The Second Responder Programme provides students affected by natural disasters with the supplies needed to get them back into a world they know, the classroom. Backpacks, they're prepared in advance and stored in a warehouse, so they contain basic supplies that your kids need to return to school with confidence. So you can check them out at www.kinf.org. And we have 3 minutes left of the show to go to. I mean, we could go on about this, but I think the real main thing that's come out of this show today, and we've talked about education for the past month, is the fact that we as parents need to get involved with our kids.
Right.
We have to. We've got to show them we're interested, because when we're interested, they'll be interested. It doesn't matter. I don't care whether you come from an affluent, $5 million home or you live in an apartment block with your 3 kids. It doesn't matter. Your involvement with your children will make a drastic effect on their lives and give them the chance to actually get the jobs they need when they grow up and come out of school and live in what I would call the real world, where real problems exist.
Right.
So let's do that. I think that's really. I think the end of this sequence that we've talked about, I think that's probably the most important thing that's come out of there.
Well, and we've said throughout the show that we want teachers to teach kids accountability and responsibility, to take pride in their work, but that starts at home too. And it's good for the parents to understand, to see that when teachers are really doing that, and to encourage that as much as they can, not only to the teachers but to the kids as well.
Well, thank you, John. We're gonna probably have to wrap. Is there anything else we need to talk about before we go off air?
Nope, just as always, you can follow us on Facebook and Twitter, The Peace Fund and Peace Fund Radio, and you can find out what we're up to at the website, thepeacefund.org. Follow Adrian at AdrianPaul1, follow Ethan at Combat Radio to find out about his Friday show, in which he has athletes and musicians and actors and all kinds of entertainers talking about the issues that matter to you.
Thank you.
Ethan, thank you for bringing this. Bev, Shahara, to all of you, I will be seeing you in Philadelphia in a couple of days. Actually, I'm leaving tomorrow. I'll be there for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, back here on Sunday. And so I'll see you all there. And for the rest of you, by the way, next week's or this coming week's show is going to be, or next month, we're going to be talking about child protection, child slavery, issues that are very, very present when I was talking at the beginning of the show regarding Nepal and how do we stop child slavery. And I think we're going to have some very interesting guests regarding that. So I will be bringing you that, or we will be bringing you that. And please send us your quotes, send us your thoughts on Twitter, or even call us when you actually listen to the show, because we'd love to hear from you. From Maria Montessori, many of you know the Montessori schools. We're going to close it with a quote from her. The greatest sign of success for a teacher is to be able to say, the children are now working as if I did not exist. This is Adrian Paul and Ethan Dettenmaier. We'll bring you slavery next week.
You're listening to Peace Fund Radio with Ethan Dettenmaier and Adrian Paul, right here on LA Talk Radio.